Hi guys, this is GSMDome.com and I'm here with HTC One A9 for a full review. This is basically HTC's rematch for the HTC One M9 that was a bit of a letdown, so they tried to make it up to the public by launching the One A9 last fall. We're dealing here with a 5-inch handset with mid-range towards high-end specs and a metallic body that I'm going to dissect, of course, virtually in the following minutes. This device is priced at $500 in USA, of course unlocked and free of contract. It's perceived by many as sort of an iPhone with Android because of its design. So let's talk about the design. First things first, it's a good looking handset. It's made of premium materials that include glass up front and of course this aluminum unibody chassis that you can see right here. People say it looks a lot like the iPhone 6. Well, I have to remind them that the previous gen and the latest gen iPhones are actually a bit inspired by the HTC One M7 and the M8, so it's a case of who was first, the chicken or the egg. Anyway, you can say it resembles the iPhone 6, but in turn Apple also borrowed some elements from HTC, so that's why there's no lawsuit. Other than that, the measurements go like this. It measures 7.26mm in thickness and it weighs 143 grams. On paper it should be heavy for a 5-inch phone. In real life it's very well balanced and it actually feels much lighter than those 143 grams. If you like comparisons, well, it's 0.36mm thicker than the iPhone 6 and 14 grams heavier than the same iPhone 6. By the way, if you want to compare it to, I would say, its main rival from last year, Samsung Galaxy A5, it's 0.56mm thinner than this one, and this one is 20 grams heavier than the Galaxy A5 from Samsung. So once again, if you're into comparisons and things like that, you'll appreciate these numbers. It feels very light in the hand, it's very comfy. However, I wouldn't say that I'm very pleased with the grip. You really feel that you're about to drop it at all times. The back, maybe because of that, it's slightly slippery and feels like it could jump out of your hand at any time. It's made of aluminum and it has an excellent one-hand usage. You can basically use your fingers to reach any area of the screen with one hand with no problem. And we got rounded edges here, but somehow they stop in a flat panel area at the front and at the back, which makes the feel of the edges different from the one of the iPhone 6, for example. Very well balanced and available in grey, silver, gold and burgundy. Very nice shade of, let's say, red. At the front we find the interesting 2.5D curved edge glass. The panel applied at the front. You really have to look closely to notice the slight curve of the screen panel. Other than that, we have this home button here. It's a touch home button with a fingerprint scanner embedded into it. This very generous earpiece. The front camera, we got a notification LED right here, also lights up when charging, and of course the sensors are here as well. The bezels are actually not very narrow by modern standards. Now we go to the back. Here you can see the plastic antenna cutouts, the protruding camera, the dual tone flash next to it, sapphire glass protection for the camera, microphone at the center, and that's the whole back side. Other than that, we go to the top where there's a pretty interesting plastic cover, probably meant for some of the antenna inside. At the bottom we have the following things. The speaker here, as you can see, we don't have dual boom sound speakers like on the HTC One models. Instead we have this speaker here, the micro USB port that's slightly off, it's not centered, so asymmetry is a problem for perfectionists. Microphone and audio jack here as well. I also have to mention that when inserting the cable here in the micro USB port, you'll notice that a bit of it is left outside. It feels like you're not inserting the whole thing, and that's a bit frustrating. To the left side we have the two slots, or better said the two trays that you will detach using a metal key. The micro SD and nano SIM trays are on this side. On the other side we have the volume buttons, comfy to use, and the power button, extra comfy to use because of those special ridges that make it more grippy and making it easy to detect when not actually seeing it. Okay, so it's an elegant and comfy headset and we really appreciate the design, and we leave aside the comparisons with the iPhones. and we leave those comparisons aside because of the fact that Apple did not invent this format. So we proceed to the hardware, where we're being greeted by a 5-inch Full HD AMOLED screen, and then we got the octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 617 CPU. It's a 64-bit processor with 4 cores that are clocked at 1.5 GHz and 4 cores that are clocked at 1.2 GHz. Specs also include 2 or 3 GB of RAM, depending on the version you're buying, and 16 or 32 GB of storage, once again depending on the version you're buying. In case you're wondering, we're testing the version with 2 GB of RAM and 16 GB of storage. We also have a very generous microSD card slot on board that can host up to 2 TB of extra storage. Now in the camera front, 4 ultra-pixel camera at the front and 13 megapixel shooter at the back as the main camera. If you want to talk about the connectivity, we got Bluetooth 4.1, Wi-Fi 802.11 AB, GNAC in the 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz bands, micro USB 2.0, GPS, GLONASS, and LTE in the category 7 range, which means you should be able to get up to 300 Mbps in download. There's also NFC, and the sensors are also pretty generous with ambient light, proximity, motion, compass, gyroscope, magnetic, sensor hub, and finally the fingerprint scanner right here. Then there's Dolby Audio to round up the spec list. Now if you want to talk about the battery, well, the battery area includes a 2150 mAh unit with quick charge 2.0. On paper, this battery should provide us with 12 hours of video playback, 60 hours of music, or 16 hours of 3G talk time, or 18 days of standby on 3G. In our test that involves HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 200 lux, we achieved 8 hours and 29 minutes, which is good, but certainly no record breaker. This means we beat the Huawei Mate S with its 8 hours and 8 minutes, the Asus Zenfone 2 with its 7 hours and 30 minutes, and the Sony Xperia M5 with its 6 hours and 34 minutes. Still, we scored below the Galaxy A5 with its 9 hours, iPhone 6 11 hours and 30 minutes, and HTC One M8 10 hours and 15 minutes. We also did a PC Mark test that simulates continuous usage, and here we got 6 hours and 17 minutes, which is okay, but not more than that. The PC Mark score placed us above the Sony Xperia M5 with its 5 hours and 48 minutes in the same test, and meanwhile we surpassed the Asus Zenfone 2 as well with its 5 hours and 45 minutes, and the Huawei P8 with its 5 hours and 31 minutes. We scored below the Galaxy A5, 6 hours and 51 minutes in the same test. We were close to the LG AKA but below it, 6 hours and 22 minutes. And finally we got surpassed by the Asus Zenfone Selfie that achieved 6 hours and 47 minutes. The charging of this handset takes 1 hour and 55 minutes. It's okay, but it's not quite quick charge as we were expecting. Maybe it requires a special charger. At least it charges faster than the iPhone 6 that requires 2 hours and 10 minutes, HTC One M9 2 hours and 20 minutes, or LG G3 2 hours. Once again, this one 1 hour and 55 minutes. There are other models that charge much faster, and it comes to mind the Galaxy A5 1 hour and 45 minutes, the OnePlus One 1 hour and 15 minutes, and the Galaxy Note 4 1 hour and 40 minutes. Okay, of course, also have settings for the battery. Going here and accessing power, where we can find battery optimization and power saver and extreme power saving mode. Well, battery optimization is basically another way to say DOSE. As we know, Android 6.0 Marshmallow comes with DOSE. What DOSE does is basically that thing when you leave your phone like this with the screen off, you don't touch it, you don't move it, and after a while it goes into DOSE mode, which basically makes your handset consume less power and restricts app access to the network and the CPU. Well, those apps can be chosen from here. So you can see battery optimization not optimized or all apps, and you can choose each one of them and do the proper selection, and that's what DOSE is all about. The access that the apps have to the CPU or network when the phone is being left alone, preferably at night. Then we got power saver that optimizes battery life, the feature you've known for so many years, conserves CPU, limits location services, reduce screen brightness, etc. And you can only choose when to activate it or if to activate it. And then extreme power saving mode that gives you a more basic user interface and only lets you access things like the basic features like phone call, messages, clock, calculator or calendar in a tile-based interface, and it saves a ton of juice. Okay, so those are all the battery features. I have to say I'm not very impressed with the battery. It's a good battery, but nowadays good simply doesn't cut it. And if you really want the comparison, it's clearly inferior to the battery of the iPhone 6 and the Samsung Galaxy A5, for example. Okay, time to talk about the acoustics. We don't have boom sound speakers. We only have this speaker here, but HTC included the DAC, digital audio converter, that converts 16-bit audio to 24-bit audio so you can enjoy high resolution music. You also have Dolby Audio Surround and a special amplifier for the output, which will be felt when you're using the headphones. Strangely, HTC did not include here its very own music app, so you have to rely on Google Play Music, which sadly will not include an equalizer.